Okay, my voice isn't completely there, however, I can record this since it's only an intro. But in today's video, you're going to get the complete compilation of all of the shotguns, and in each chapter, you will find out how to use the gun, what are the pros, what are the cons, and if it makes sense to use the gun. So with that being said, guys, don't forget to check out the giveaway in the description down below, and on Discord, everything is down in the description below. And as always, now a quick word from our sponsor. With Skins Monkey, you can easily trade your CS skins just a few clicks. It's a fully automated trading platform with 24/7 live chat support and a massive inventory of skins to choose from. When you trade at least $10 worth of skins, you get up to $5 for free as a bonus. To maximize it, trade $100 and grab that extra $5 bonus. Skins Monkey also offers a 35% bonus when you use my code SHIFTERZ, and also check out their free section for awesome giveaways. Click the link below, use my code, and now back to the video. Thank you to Skin Baron, and now let's actually start with the Nova. So let's start off with the stats of the gun. The price, it is on the cheaper side of the shotguns. It has 8 shells in the mag and 32 in reserve. The damage can be up to 234 per full blast. However, each pellet, it has 9 out of them, would get you 26 up close. The armor penetration is 50%, and it's the worst one in the shotgun categories. However, the spread is the tightest one out of all of the shotguns, and it is effective up to 3.2 meters. The reload is obviously slow since you have to manually load the shells. However, the kill reward if you get a kill is $900. And as you can see from the spread of the gun, the shots are pretty tight, and maybe with this one you want to aim for the neck, so you are able to get the most bullets into the enemy body. So let's move on to the pros and the cons of the gun. First one, it's economical. It is a low cost and it can give you high damage in a round where you want to save money. The tight spread obviously is a go-to thing for this gun, and obviously the surprise factor is also a good thing. Most people don't expect to use the Nova. They are most likely either going to expect a MAG-7 or an XM. Then let's move on to the cons. The low armor penetration is something that has to be mentioned and will lead you to not be able to kill some enemies even in 2 shots sometimes, especially if they're a bit farther away. Also, slow fire rate and the reload time is something that you have to be aware of. Most likely you are only going to get 3 shots off and that's it, but normally it's going to be 1 or 2 shots. And obviously also a factor with this gun, the jump shot accuracy isn't as good as with other shotguns. So how can you use the shotgun effectively? First of all, in close range combat. Hold tight angles, hallways, bomb sites or choke points, those will be your friend. Understand the position you're playing in. For example, in apartments, you will most likely see effect when you're using the Nova. And as I head for the aim strategy, go for just below the neck area or head area, and there you will see the shots, because of the spread, are also going to go upwards from your crosshair, and therefore you are going to get 1 or 2 headshots with it. If you want, you can use it with an aggressive peek, especially a wide peek, and then counter strafe, so the shots go as close to the target as possible, since most likely you can really abuse this gun, especially if you're also being flashed out, and an enemy is obviously going to be very surprised when they hear the shotgun sound. So when should you buy it? If you want, during an eco and forced buy rounds, it can be effective. Keep that purchasing price in mind, because if you're doing an eco, most likely you're only going to be buying the Nova and that's it. And don't forget to check that you're not spending too much. And personally, I would rather use it on a CT side than on the T side. However, at the end of the day, it's your choice how you're going to use it. So, as always, let's start off with the stats of the MAG-7. The MAG-7 is a CT side only shotgun that costs $1,300. The kill reward is standard with $900. The magazine size is normal, I would say, with 5 shells and a reserve ammo of 32. The rate of fire is standard for a shotgun at 71 RPM, and the damage per pellet is 30. However, multiplied by 9 pellets, you are theoretically able to get 270 damage up close. The armor penetration is pretty decent at 75%. The reload time is okay, and the accurate range is up to 10 meters. And the movement speed is 225 units per second. And here's the spread pattern of the MAG-7, and as you can see, more of the shots go higher. There's only 1 bullet that normally goes a bit below your crosshair. So with that, again, maybe you want to aim below the neckline. And now let's move on to the pros and the cons. So for the pros, we have a couple. We have the high burst fire damage. Then you're able to draw it fast, and and fire pretty good, which makes it perfect for aggressive holds. The magazine size reload is good since you're loading in a complete shell instead of loading each pellet individually. And obviously the economical value is also something that's a big factor. The low price compared to the high kill reward that you get makes it therefore strong for eco/force buy rounds. And also it's a CT side exclusive weapon. I would say it's the better CT exclusive out there. Then let's move on to the cons. Some people might say that the low ammo capacity is a negative point of this gun. Compared to other shotguns, for example the XM, the 5 shots can be a bit of a problematic thing for some people. Then the sharp damage drop off is something with this weapon that you have to be aware of. After 10 meters, beyond 10 meters, it becomes extremely ineffective at killing enemies. And if you want, you can see this as a negative. However, I can also understand why it's an exclusive gun. However, it is CT side only, and people who would like to use it on the T side, you can only use it if you pick it up. And for the last point, the spread, it is random. You're not able to control it. It is something that is always a factor that you need to keep in mind. Now, let us move on to how to use the MAG-7. First of all, close quarter control is very important. As with all shotguns, use those tight spaces, stick behind boxes, let the enemy close the distance to you, and then surprise them with a perfect shot to the neck area. With the MAG-7, you can do quick peeks, take advantage of its fast first shot accuracy, peek, fire, and then retreat and reposition and repeat that process. Then also one good thing about the MAG-7 is that you are able to be accurate while jump shotting, so you can abuse that. And also adding a bit to the point where it comes to aggressive plays and quick peeks, you could again use this gun with an aggressive play style. It is great for solo holds, or if you, for example, want to do a pop flash into the site or into the area where you think an enemy is, go around the corner, hit the enemy, and then retreat back. And because the economy of the CTs is not the best, it can be a good idea to think about using this gun, especially if you know what position you're holding. Since the kill reward of this gun is $900, you might be able to get 1 or maybe even 2 kills and are therefore profitable for that round. But yeah, that's basically it, how to use the MAG-7. It is a simple shotgun, and personally I quite like it more than the Nova. I like how it feels, I like how it sounds, and I like how it works. That is why personally it is my second favorite shotgun. So, as always, same procedure. We're starting off with the stats, moving on to the pros and the cons, and then to how to use the shotgun. And then we're gonna finally try to answer the question, is it worth it to put it in a slot in your CS2 loadout? So let's start off with the stats. So, pricing, it is $1,100, so 50 more than the Nova. It is a terrorist only gun. The kill reward is standard for the shotguns at $900. The magazine size is 7 shells with 32 in reserve. The damage per shell is 32 and 8 pellets are shot, giving you a total damage of 256 per shot. The armor penetration is at 75%, so more than the Nova. The fire rate is at 71 RPM, and the reload time is 0.67 seconds for the first shell, and after each subsequent shell you're wasting 0.5 seconds, giving you a total reload of 4.2 seconds. The accurate range is at 2.2 meters, and the mobility is at 210 units, so it's actually the slowest one. And as you can see, here's the spread pattern. You have a couple of central shots and then other shots that fly off into each direction, so that is why I would actually recommend you to shoot to the chest area so the most bullets hit. So let us start off with the pros of the gun. So first of all, the massive close range damage this gun can give you. Just like with each shotgun, one shot will kill an enemy, possibly to the chest or to the upper body, and you will get $900. The armor penetration is very good at 75%, being way better than the Nova. Then it is also very affordable on an eco or a force buy round with only $50 more than a Nova, and again giving you 900 on a kill reward. It is something that could give you some extra cash. And for the last positive point about a gun, it is effective while you're moving, so the spread doesn't worsen significantly while you're moving. And now let us move on to the cons. So first of all, it has a very limited range. It is only accurate, as I mentioned, on until 2.2 meters, and then the damage falls off rapidly, making it useless. And because of that, it can be inaccurate, especially on longer ranges or middle ranges, because you need to be close range, and overall the spread compared to other guns isn't as tight. Then the reload rate is pretty slow, so if you wasted all of your shots, get ready for reloading a long time. And to be honest, using this gun overall as a T has a very limited potential, because you really need to be up close and you really need to find out when you should use it. So how should you use the sawed-off? First of all, ambush in tight spots. Hold extremely close corners or doorways or choke points. With this gun, it is very important to get the enemy up close, because then you will do the most damage. And then try to aim for the center of mass, so the chest, stomach area, not the head, because so many shots fly into each direction. Get as many shots onto the enemy and then pull the trigger basically. And as mentioned before, use the mobility of this gun to an advantage, because you are able to shoot while moving and jumping. Use that to your advantage, since most likely your enemy needs to stand still to be precise. And once you have killed an enemy, reposition, go a bit backward, hold the next tight angle and wait for the enemy to come. And now to answer the question, when should you use it? The gun, to be honest, is perfectly for low buy rounds, so especially force buys if you want to go for that, and when you know you're holding a tight angle, because then you will most likely be able to get the money you invested in back and even maybe make a bit of a profit. And to answer the final question, should you use it? To be honest, no. This gun has only very limited potential or use cases. The only time I would say it makes sense to use it is on office, because there you have only tight angles. That is why the only time you should use the sawed-off is during that time, or if you want to troll, because no one will expect the sawed-off in a normal competitive or premier game. But overall, I would say this gun has no use case. Okay, we are now looking as always first at the stats of the XM, then we're moving on to the pros and the cons, and we're finishing off the video with how to use the XM the best way possible. So let's start off with the stats. First of all, price. It is the most expensive one with $2,000. It has a 7-round magazine, 32 in reserve. The fire rate is obviously the highest one in the category, because it's the only automatic shotgun in the game. Then the damage per shot is a bit lower than the other ones, with 20 per pellet, and it shoots 6 pellets, which is a total of 120 total potential damage. The armor penetration is really high with 80%. The reload time is approximately 4.2 seconds, with the first reload of the shell taking 1 second and then 0.65 each. Then the movement speed is okay with 215 units, and the kill reward was reduced down to $600 in CS2. However, back then it was $900. However, something completely changed in CS2, most likely with the subtick system, and this gun at the beginning of CS2 was an absolute beast. It still is, and combine that with a kill reward, it basically didn't really make sense to buy primary guns. And now let us quickly take a look at the spread. And as you can see, the shots are aligning a bit more to the lower left of the crosshair. However, I would say compared to some other shotguns, it actually keeps them pretty close to the crosshair itself, so you can be pretty comfortable when shooting either to the chest or going for the headshot that you're most likely going to get one. And now let us move on to the pros and the cons of the XM. First of all, the most obvious one is that it's a full auto shotgun. Combine that with the high burst DPS and the ability to actually run and gun with this gun, it is obviously a game changer. And on top of that, you have the high armor penetration of 80%, which makes it effective in later rounds, and also really crucial, you can interrupt the reload by start firing mid reload, which is super effective if you get caught in a bad situation. And now let us move on to the cons, and the first one is the most obvious one and will hit your wallet. It's a $2,000 price tag on this gun. It is basically something that you have to consider. Would you rather spend that money on an SMG and maybe get some util, or buy this gun? Or if you're playing on the T side, does it actually make sense to maybe go for a Galil? And then the low per shot damage compared to other shotguns, it has the least amount of pellets, which can be seen in the stats. Compared to to other shotguns, it does the least potential damage if all pellets hit. And for the last gun, I would say the reduced kill reward. $600 is something that you would get by buying an SMG and get a kill with it. However, you would also spend less money if you bought an SMG. Is it really worth it to pay 1.5 to 2 times to actually get the same amount of cash, or is it worth it? It is something that you really have to ask yourself before buying this gun. And well, to understand what you should do, let's actually now look at how to use the gun properly. First of all, this gun is best used in close range, as all shotguns are, and perfectly for either holding choke points or clearing them. Then also be very aware, don't just spray this gun the same way you wouldn't just spray an AK or an M4. Burst fire with it. Shoot 3 to 4 shots maximum and then let it reset so you can shoot again. Then also be aware, don't reload fully unless it's very safe. However, you can reload 2 to 3 shots and use it just in that small downtime you might have before the next engagement. Then this gun is best played with a backup. Play aggressive with it, use your backup to trade you, because most likely you will do the chip damage and then your backup can trade you perfectly. And at the end of the day, don't forget, this is not a rifle replacement. It is something that can be used in only close to maybe I would say mid-range engagements. However, stick to close range engagements. You will get the most results there. And then to basically the verdict of this gun, the XM is a specialized gun for room clearing purposes, and it is very chaotic and perfect for close range combat. It has many benefits that make it very appealing. However, never forget, it's a very expensive shotgun and that money can be used way better in certain situations, so be really sure when you're purchasing this gun.